You've seen the headlines everywhere. People are supposedly making thousands of dollars every single month in passive income from dropshipping stores built by artificial intelligence. Some claim they're pulling in $500 a day. Others are showing screenshots of $600,000 in monthly revenue. And the pitch is always the same. Anyone can do this, from anywhere in the world, using free tools and minimal effort. But here's what nobody's telling you. For every person showing you their winning product dashboard, there are dozens who've spent months spinning their wheels, hemorrhaging money on Facebook ads, and wondering why their beautifully designed AI-generated store isn't converting a single visitor into a paying customer. Today, I'm going to walk you through something completely different. Instead of showing you how to set up yet another dropshipping store, I'm going to reveal the 12 critical mistakes that cause 90% of these AI-built stores to fail within their first 90 days. And more importantly, I'm going to show you the strategic frameworks that separate the people making real money from those just burning through their credit card limits. Because here's the truth that might surprise you. The store setup is actually the easiest part. It's everything that comes after that determines whether you're building a sustainable business or just creating an expensive hobby. Let me start with something that's going to sound counterintuitive. The biggest problem with AI store builders isn't that they don't work. It's that they work too well. They make the process so easy, so frictionless, that people skip over the foundational strategic thinking that actually determines success. When you can generate a complete online store in under an hour, you bypass all the critical questions that force you to understand your market, your customer, and your competitive advantage. And that oversight becomes fatal the moment you start spending money on traffic. Think about what happens in traditional business development. You spend weeks researching your market. You interview potential customers. You study your competition. You test pricing strategies. You validate demand before you invest significant resources. But with AI dropshipping, people are live with a store and running ads within the same afternoon. They haven't identified a genuine market gap. They haven't understood their customers' actual pain points. They haven't calculated their true unit economics beyond the basic markup formula. And then they wonder why their ad campaigns generate clicks but no conversions, or why their conversion rate sits below 0.5% when profitable stores are hitting 3 to 5%. Let's talk about the first critical mistake, and it's one that nearly everyone makes. It's choosing products based on what seems popular, rather than understanding the psychology of impulse buying versus considered purchases. Here's what I mean. When you're scrolling through trending product databases, you're seeing items that have high search volume or that other dropshippers are selling. But high search volume doesn't automatically translate to dropshipping success. Some products are perfect for impulse purchases from an Instagram story. Others require comparison shopping, reading reviews, and careful consideration. If you're dropshipping complex electronics or expensive fitness equipment, you're competing against Amazon's 2-day delivery, generous return policy, and established trust. Your customer isn't going to wait 2 weeks for shipping when they can have it tomorrow from a brand they recognize. The products that work exceptionally well for dropshipping fall into specific categories that most people overlook. They solve an immediate, specific problem that the customer just discovered they have. They're novel enough that the customer hasn't seen them in every local store. They have a perceived value that's higher than their actual cost, which gives you margin to work with. And critically, they're not readily available through faster, more trusted channels. That breathing trainer that athletes use to simulate high-altitude training? That's actually a smart product choice, and here's why. It's specialized enough that most people don't know where to buy one. It has a clear, understandable benefit. The customer who wants it now, not in 2 weeks. But they don't know where else to look. And it's not something you'll find in the sporting goods section at your local department store. But here's where most people make their second critical mistake. They see a winning product and assume that's all they need. They don't think about product market fit within their specific audience. Let me explain this with an example. Resistance bands sell extremely well. They're affordable, lightweight to ship, have obvious fitness benefits, and appeal to a broad audience. But if you're just adding resistance bands to your store because they're popular, you're missing the strategic opportunity. The question isn't whether resistance bands sell. It's whether they sell to your specific customer, through your specific marketing channel, at your specific price point. A resistance band marketed to busy professionals who work out at home during lunch breaks is a completely different proposition than the same band marketed to serious athletes looking for progressive overload training tools. The product is identical, but the messaging, the positioning, the price point, and the marketing channel are entirely different. This brings us to the third mistake, and it's the one that burns through marketing budgets faster than anything else. People are driving cold traffic directly to product pages without any awareness building or trust establishment process. Think about how you actually buy things online. If you've never heard of a brand before, you don't immediately hand over your credit card information just because you stumbled across their product in your Instagram feed. You check reviews, you look at their other products, you might visit their website 2 or 3 times before making a purchase. You want to know that this isn't some fly-by-night operation that's going to take your money and disappear. But most dropshipping strategies treat every visitor like they're ready to buy right now, and that fundamental misunderstanding of the customer journey destroys profitability. Here's what actually works, and it's something that requires more sophistication than most beginners are willing to invest. You need a multi-touch attribution strategy. That sounds complicated, but the concept is straightforward. Your first interaction with a potential customer isn't about making a sale. It's about making an impression. You're building awareness. You're establishing credibility. You're creating enough interest that they remember your brand when they're actually ready to buy. This might mean running video content that educates rather than sells. It might mean building an email list through a lead magnet before you ever pitch a product. It might mean creating valuable content on platforms where your audience already spends time, so that when they eventually see your product offer, you're not a complete stranger.
The fourth critical mistake is treating micro-influencer marketing as a magic bullet without understanding the economics that make it work. Yes, micro-influencers often have better engagement rates than macro-influencers. Yes, they're more affordable. But here's what the success stories don't tell you. For every influencer collaboration that generates a positive return, there are 5 that barely move the needle. The difference isn't the influencer's follower count. It's the alignment between their audience and your product and the quality of the creative execution. An influencer with 14,000 followers might seem like a perfect fit for your budget, but if only 2% of their audience is actually in market for your product category, you're reaching 280 potential customers. If your creative converts at 2%, that's 5 sales. If your profit per sale is $15, you've made $75. If you paid $50 for the collaboration, you're up $25. That sounds fine until you realize you spent hours negotiating, managing the collaboration, and processing orders, and that doesn't scale effectively. The influencer strategy that actually works requires a completely different approach. You're not looking for one-off posts. You're building ongoing relationships with creators who genuinely use and recommend your products because they align with their personal brand. You're giving them affiliate codes so their compensation is tied to performance. You're providing them with multiple products so they can create authentic content over time rather than one obviously sponsored post. And you're tracking not just immediate conversions, but the lift in branded search traffic, the increase in social media mentions, and the long-term impact on your store's authority. This is why established dropshipping businesses allocate 30 to 40% of their revenue back into marketing. They understand that customer acquisition has a cost, and that cost needs to be amortized across multiple purchases, not recovered from a single transaction. Let's talk about the fifth mistake, because this one is particularly insidious. It's assuming that automation equals passivity. The promise of dropshipping is that it's passive income. You set up the store, the AI selects the products, the orders automatically route to suppliers who handle fulfillment, and you just collect profits while you sleep. Except that's not how any sustainable business actually operates. Every automated system requires monitoring, optimization, and intervention when things go wrong. And in dropshipping, things go wrong constantly. Products go out of stock at your supplier. Shipping times suddenly double because of logistics issues. Customers receive defective items. Your payment processor flags your account because of a sudden spike in chargebacks. Your best-selling product gets copied by 3 competitors who undercut your pricing. None of these problems solve themselves just because you have automation in place. The successful dropshippers I've studied spend their time very differently than beginners expect. They're not placing orders or printing shipping labels because, yes, that's automated. But they're analyzing data constantly. They're looking at which traffic sources convert best. They're testing different product descriptions and pricing strategies. They're monitoring customer feedback and adjusting their product selection based on actual market response. They're staying ahead of competition by identifying new products before they become saturated. They're building relationships with backup suppliers so they're not dependent on a single source. They're creating systems and processes that allow their business to scale without proportionally scaling their time investment. This is business building, not passive income generation, and the distinction matters enormously. The 6th mistake is one that doesn't become obvious until you've already invested significant time and money. It's building your entire business on rented land. What I mean by that is building your customer acquisition strategy entirely through paid ads on platforms you don't control, or through influencer audiences that aren't yours, or through marketplace algorithms that can change overnight. When your only traffic source is Facebook ads, and Facebook decides to increase their minimum bid, your profit margins evaporate instantly. When you're dependent on Instagram's algorithm to show your content, and Instagram deprioritizes promotional posts, your reach collapses. When you're dropshipping through a marketplace that decides your niche violates their updated policies, your entire inventory becomes unsellable. The strategic framework that creates real sustainability is building owned audiences and traffic channels alongside your paid acquisition. This means capturing email addresses from site visitors, even if they don't purchase immediately. It means creating content that ranks in search engines, so you have organic traffic that doesn't cost you per click. It means building a presence on platforms where you can communicate directly with your audience without paying for reach every single time. It means potentially creating your own products or establishing exclusive arrangements with suppliers so you're not selling the exact same items as 50 other stores. This transition from pure dropshipping arbitrage to actual brand building is what separates the people making 5 figures monthly from those struggling to break even. Now let's address the 7th critical mistake, and it's one rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of unit economics. People calculate their profit as sale price minus product cost, and they think that's their margin. But that's not how business math works. Your true cost per sale includes the product cost, yes, but also the shipping, the payment processing fees, the platform fees, the advertising cost to acquire that customer, the customer service time to handle inquiries and issues, the cost of returns and refunds, and the opportunity cost of your own time. When you run these numbers honestly, that $15 product you're selling for $30 isn't generating $15 in profit. It's generating maybe $4 to $6 in actual profit after all true costs are accounted for. And if your advertising cost to acquire a customer is $8, you're losing money on every sale. This is why the most successful dropshipping operations focus obsessively on 3 metrics that beginners often ignore. First is customer lifetime value. They're not trying to profit from the first purchase. They're building a customer relationship that generates multiple purchases over time, which allows them to spend more on acquisition because they're recovering that cost across 3 or 4 or 5 transactions. Second is average order value. They're using upsells, cross-sells, and product bundling to increase the size of each transaction, which improves their margins and makes their advertising more efficient. And third is repeat purchase rate. They're implementing email marketing, loyalty programs, and strategic follow-up to bring customers back, because acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 7 times more than selling to an existing one. The 8th mistake is treating your dropshipping store like a product vending machine rather than a brand that customers want to engage with. Here's what I mean. When someone lands on your site, they're not just evaluating your product. They're evaluating whether they trust you enough to give you their payment information. They're making snap judgments about your legitimacy based on tiny details you might not even consider important. Is your logo professional, or does it look like it was made in 5 minutes? Is your product photography consistent in style and quality? Do your product descriptions sound like they were written by a native English speaker who understands the product? Or do they read like badly translated marketing copy? Is your About page authentic and compelling, or is it generic platitudes about customer satisfaction? Do you have social proof through reviews, testimonials, and user-generated content, or is your site completely devoid of trust signals? These details seem minor when you're rushing to get your store live, but they're the difference between a 2% conversion rate and a 0.5% conversion rate. And that difference determines whether your business is profitable or not. The stores that succeed are treating every element of the customer experience as a reflection of their brand identity. They're writing product descriptions that tell stories and create emotional connections, not just list features. They're creating cohesive visual branding across their site, their social media, and their packaging. They're responding to customer inquiries within hours, not days. They're including unexpected touches like thank you cards or surprise bonuses with orders. They're building a brand that people want to buy from and recommend to others, not just a transactional storefront. Mistake number 9 is one that becomes apparent when you look at the actual products successful dropshippers focus on versus what beginners choose. Beginners are attracted to products with broad appeal and high search volume. They want to sell items that lots of people want, because more potential customers equals more sales, right? But that logic breaks down in practice because broad appeal means high competition. If you're selling generic resistance bands or basic phone cases or standard kitchen gadgets, you're competing against thousands of other dropshippers selling identical products, plus major retailers with better pricing, faster shipping, and stronger brands. Your only competitive lever becomes price, which destroys your margins and makes the business unsustainable. The products that generate exceptional returns in dropshipping are typically ones with specific, intense appeal to a niche audience. They solve a particular problem for a defined group of people who are actively looking for solutions and willing to pay a premium for the right product. Think about specialized pet products for specific breeds. Think about hobby-related tools for enthusiasts and niche interests. Think about problem-solving products for specific life situations like new parents or people with particular health conditions. These products might have lower search volume overall, but the people searching for them have much higher purchase intent. They're not browsing, they're buying. And because the market is more specialized, there are fewer competitors, which means you can maintain better margins and build a more defensible position. The 10th critical mistake is ignoring the seasonal and trend-based nature of many dropshipping products. A product that's selling incredibly well right now might be completely dead in 3 months. And if you've built your entire store around that product category, you're suddenly starting over from scratch. This is particularly common with gadgets and novelty items. They spike in popularity as social media trends. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon, the market becomes saturated, and then interest collapses as the next trend emerges. If you're constantly chasing trends, you're on a treadmill that requires continuous effort without building any lasting value. You're essentially creating a series of short-term campaigns rather than a sustainable business. The strategic approach that creates longevity is building around evergreen needs and problems rather than trendy solutions. Yes, you can and should test trending products, but they should be supplementary to a core product offering that has consistent demand year-round. This might mean focusing on fundamental fitness equipment rather than the latest workout fad. It might mean selling essential pet supplies rather than just the viral pet toy of the moment. It might mean offering practical home organization solutions rather than only decorative items that match current design trends. The evergreen products might not generate the explosive growth that trending items can, but they provide stable, predictable revenue that allows you to plan and invest in growth strategically rather than reactively. Mistake 11 is particularly relevant for people who are treating dropshipping as a side hustle rather than a primary business. It's underestimating the time requirement for effective customer service and issue resolution. When you're selling physical products to customers who don't receive them for 1 to 3 weeks after ordering, you're going to deal with inquiries, complaints, and problems. Customers want to know where their order is. They received the wrong size or color. The product arrived damaged. They want to return something. They have questions about how to use the product. They're upset about shipping times that they didn't realize would be so long. And every single one of these interactions is an opportunity to either build customer loyalty or generate negative reviews that damage your future sales. The businesses that scale successfully Have systems in place to handle customer service efficiently without it consuming all of their time. They use automated email sequences to set expectations about shipping times and provide tracking information proactively. They create comprehensive FAQ sections that answer common questions before customers need to reach out. They use chatbots to handle simple inquiries and route complex issues to human support. They have clear, customer-friendly return and refund policies that reduce friction and complaints. They monitor their supplier performance religiously and cut ties with suppliers who consistently cause problems. They build relationships with backup suppliers so they can switch quickly if quality or reliability issues emerge. And they price their products with enough margin to absorb the occasional refund or replacement without it destroying their profitability. The 12th and final critical mistake is one that's almost universal among people who are new to dropshipping. It's treating the store launch as the finish line rather than the starting line. There's this sense that once your store is live and you've placed your first orders, you've succeeded. You've built a business. You've created a passive income stream. But the reality is that launch day is just the beginning of a long process of testing, learning, and optimizing. Your initial product selection might be completely wrong. Your pricing strategy might need adjustment. Your target audience might be different than you expected. Your marketing messaging might not resonate. Your store design might have friction points that are killing conversions. None of these things are failures. They're just data points that inform your optimization process. The framework that actually leads to sustainable success is treating your first 90 days as an intensive learning period. You're not trying to scale immediately. You're trying to identify what works. You're running small tests across different products, different ad creatives, different audience segments, different price points. You're tracking everything meticulously so you can identify patterns. You're analyzing which products have the best margins after all costs are considered. You're looking at which traffic sources provide the highest quality customers. You're studying which marketing messages generate the most engagement and conversions. You're examining your customer data to understand who's actually buying and why. And you're using all of this information to systematically eliminate what doesn't work and double down on what does. This is where the real skill in dropshipping emerges. Anyone can set up a store using AI tools, but very few people can systematically optimize that store into a profitable, sustainable business. It requires analytical thinking. It requires patience to let tests run long enough to generate meaningful data. It requires discipline to not change multiple variables simultaneously so you can isolate what's actually causing results. It requires honesty to recognize when something isn't working rather than throwing good money after bad. And it requires strategic thinking to identify opportunities that others are missing. Let me give you a concrete example of how this optimization process works in practice. Let's say you've launched your fitness store and you're selling 4 products: the breathing trainer, the golf club clips, the resistance bands, and the winter running hat. After 30 days, you've spent $300 on marketing and generated 40 sales across all products. At first glance, that might seem disappointing. But when you dig into the data, you discover something interesting. 30 of those 40 sales were for the breathing trainer. The other 3 products generated 10 sales combined. This tells you something important. You haven't validated a general fitness store. You've validated one specific product that resonates with your audience. Now you have options. You could continue trying to sell all 4 products and hoping the others pick up. But the smarter strategic move is to lean into what's working. You shift your entire marketing focus to the breathing trainer. You create educational content about altitude training and respiratory fitness. You target athletes in endurance sports who would specifically benefit from this product. You test higher price points because people who want this product value the benefit over the price. You look for complementary products that someone who buys a breathing trainer would also want. Maybe that's workout tracking apps, or training programs, or recovery tools. You're not building a general fitness store anymore. You're building a specialized destination for people interested in respiratory training and performance optimization. This kind of strategic pivot based on real market feedback is what separates successful dropshippers from those who give up after a few months. The successful ones are constantly asking themselves, what is the market telling me? What's working better than expected? What's underperforming? Where are my customers actually coming from? What problems are they trying to solve? What objections do they have that I need to address? And they're adjusting their strategy continuously based on the answers to these questions. Now, I want to address something that's probably on your mind if you've made it this far. With all of these challenges and mistakes to avoid, is dropshipping actually a viable business model? And the honest answer is, it depends entirely on how you approach it. If you're looking for passive income that requires minimal effort and generates thousands of dollars per month within weeks, then no, dropshipping isn't going to deliver that dream. That version of dropshipping is marketing fiction designed to sell courses and tools. But if you're willing to approach dropshipping as a real business that requires strategic thinking, continuous optimization, and genuine value creation, then yes, it can absolutely be a viable path to building a profitable online business. The people who succeed with dropshipping long-term are those who treat it as a stepping stone rather than a destination. They use dropshipping to test products and validate markets without the risk of holding inventory. They identify which products have genuine demand and strong margins. They build audiences and email lists and social media followings. They establish relationships with suppliers and negotiate better terms as their volume grows. And then they transition from pure dropshipping to hybrid models that give them more control and better economics. This might mean ordering inventory for their best-selling products so they can fulfill faster and capture more margin. It might mean developing their own branded versions of products they've validated through dropshipping. It might mean licensing exclusive distribution rights in certain markets. It might mean eventually developing proprietary products based on the market knowledge they've gained. This evolution from dropshipping to brand building is the path that creates real wealth in e-commerce. You're not trying to arbitrage the difference between a supplier's price and retail forever. You're using dropshipping as market research that happens to generate revenue while you're conducting it. You're learning what customers want, how to reach them, what messages resonate, what price points work. And you're building assets that have value beyond just current month revenue. You're building an audience that trusts your recommendations. You're building brand equity that commands premium pricing. You're building operational systems that allow you to scale efficiently. You're building knowledge and skills that transfer to other opportunities. Let me share one final framework that ties all of this together. It's something I call the Dropshipping Maturity Model, and it outlines the stages that successful dropshipping businesses move through. Stage 1 is validation. You're testing products, offers, and audiences to identify what actually works. You're not trying to optimize or scale yet. You're just trying to generate enough sales to have meaningful data. This stage might last 1 to 3 months, and your goal is to identify at least one product-market channel combination that's consistently profitable. Stage 2 is optimization. You've identified what works, and now you're systematically improving every element of the funnel. You're testing different ad creatives. You're optimizing your product pages. You're implementing email sequences. You're improving your customer service processes. This stage might last another 3 to 6 months, and your goal is to improve your profit per customer and your customer lifetime value to the point where your unit economics are genuinely attractive. Stage 3 is scaling. You've proven your model works and you've optimized it to be profitable. Now you're increasing your ad spend, expanding to new products and audiences, and potentially hiring people to handle specific functions. This stage is where most people want to start, but if you try to scale before you've validated and optimized, you just lose money faster. Stage 4 is diversification. You're not dependent on a single product, supplier, or traffic source. You've built redundancy and resilience into your business. Stage 5 is brand evolution. You're transitioning from being a dropshipping business to being a brand that happens to use dropshipping for some products. You might be developing your own products, building proprietary distribution, or creating content and community that has value independent of transactions. Not every dropshipping business needs to progress through all 5 stages. But understanding where you are in this maturity model helps you make appropriate decisions for your current stage, rather than trying to implement strategies that only work at later stages. If you're still in stage 1 validation, you shouldn't be hiring a team or developing custom products. If you're in stage 3 scaling, you should be building systems and potentially bringing on help, rather than still doing everything yourself. Each stage has its own priorities, challenges, and appropriate strategies. So where does this leave us? If you're considering starting a dropshipping business, or if you've already started one and you're not getting the results you hoped for, the question isn't whether dropshipping works. It's whether you're approaching it with the strategic framework and realistic expectations that lead to success. Are you treating it as business building or as a get-rich-quick scheme? Are you willing to invest the time to understand your market, test methodically, and optimize continuously? Are you prepared for the reality that the store setup is the easy part and the real work is everything that comes after? Are you building for short-term gains or long-term value? The AI tools that make it easy to launch a dropshipping store are incredible enablers. They remove technical barriers and reduce startup costs. But they don't remove the need for strategic thinking, market understanding, and genuine value creation. They don't eliminate competition or guarantee profits. They don't replace the need to understand your customers and solve real problems for them. What they do is allow you to test and learn faster and cheaper than ever before. And if you use them wisely, as tools within a larger strategic framework, rather than as shortcuts that bypass the hard work of building a business, they can absolutely help you build something valuable. The opportunity in dropshipping today isn't in following the same playbook that thousands of others are following. It's in using these accessible tools to test unique angles, serve underserved niches, and build genuine brands that create value for specific audiences. It's in treating dropshipping as market research that generates revenue rather than as passive income that requires no effort. It's in being willing to do the strategic thinking and continuous optimization that most people skip over in their rush to start seeing profits. If you take nothing else from this, remember this. The people making real money with dropshipping aren't the ones with the fanciest AI tools or the biggest ad budgets. They're the ones who understand their customers deeply, who test relentlessly, who optimize systematically, and who build real businesses rather than just chasing trends. They're the ones who recognize that sustainable success comes from creating genuine value, not from arbitraging information or access. And they're the ones who are willing to put in the work that everyone else is trying to avoid. That's the real secret to dropshipping success. Everything else is just tactics.